let's look at the minutes first. Everybody has them, I presume?
Yes.
May I have a motion to approve?
Yes, so moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We have one tabled item that apparently needs to be tabled again, Harold, is that fair, based upon the memo?
The applicant today sent an email into the planning office asking for an adjournment to sometime in the spring when they can get out there and do perk tests. Right now, they can't get onto the property to do any type of digging for county health department approvals out there. So they've asked for an adjournment indefinitely to allow them to get into the springtime when the ground there is not falling.
Seems logical, okay? Anybody have any thoughts or issues with that?
That makes sense. Do they have to rule on seeker first before we can even go forward in the first place?
My understanding, they did do that already.
Sure didn't look like it.
That they took lead agency?
They took lead, but that's it.
Right.
Well, but you gotta do more than
They
lead.
make a
They have to make a determination of environmental significance, POSDAC, NACDAC.
Right.
And they didn't do that at their meeting.
I don't know. I just
I
asked
wasn't
them.
at that meeting.
Yeah, I can find that out, but I mean, generally speaking, they will have taken over the lead agency and made that environmental determination prior to going forward with another meeting to make a decision on whether to approve or deny.
They usually will issue that close. They don't usually sign the part 2 until like they're ready to sign,
Right.
approve the resolution. So they're not that far.
Yeah, I don't think they're that far yet.
Okay, well then I'll make a motion to table April.
Well, the way it was told to me.
Can we excuse me, can we table without a date?
Why don't you table it and have them come back and
Give us a date? So table it to
Table
a
to next
further
month.
date and based
then
upon,
provide a formal
Proposed date.
request to us.
yeah, table it till next meeting and then and give them, for the purpose of them giving you a
more
date when they
specific
expect
future
that.
date.
Right.
Okay, that'll be my motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's go to number 1. Any questions or clarification here?
I have a question.
Yeah?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's grabbing a box.
Why can't they go with a directional sign? I mean, if the object at this point is to locate the access for the parking lot,
This one, these are
I
always
mean,
really
can't
good.
you just do a directional sign that says orthodontist parking or something with an arrow and resolve the whole thing with a variance and, and then with the understanding that an informational sign will be placed there when the second lot goes in?
It's something obviously you can ask of their, that they comment on, but they really want a sign that's the same size as the traditional freestanding sign that's going to be out by Penfield Road, and that sign is I think 22 or 23 square feet.
Then the
So
problem
it's
is,
big.
we're not talking about a sign to locate the parking area. We're talking about a sign to advertise the property.
And to identify the location, to a certain
Well,
degree.
where else is it gonna be, Dan? You can't get in the front, you got an access road.
Yeah.
The question is, where do you make that? Obviously, you have to go to the parking lot. Where are you gonna make that left? I mean, it seems to me we're back into, why don't we just allow everybody to have...
Advertise.
freestanding
There's no
signs.
question that's the primary purpose of it. I don't disagree with you at all. I just wanted to make sure that we knew what the issue was before we start the hearing about informational versus directional. Everybody
I
get
did
that?
advertise it for both
Uh-huh.
2 freestanding signs outside of the informational sign component, because the informational sign allows you to have that extra sign without coming to the board as long as it complies with the 20 feet off the property line and the square foot area. So I was giving the board some ability to render a decision whether it's going to be 2 freestanding signs or an informational sign that's too close to the right-of-way, which is Harris Whalen Park Road. Now, if they said that we can get away with a smaller sign, which would be sort of like a directional sign, little nameplate shingle with an arrow, I think it may sort of pigeonhole you into a decision that may not be favorable for them.
Well, ask whatever you like. I mean, I hear exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, my initial thought is, if we're gonna allow a freestanding, I don't see how we can give them an informational sign, because it talks about an access road.
In the future.
So that access road will be for everybody, so then...
That's right.
But at this point, it's not an access road. So I think my thought would be to give them, if we agree, a freestanding sign that terminates when the next property goes in, and it will be replaced with an informational sign.
Well,
I
that
assume we can
sounds
put,
good.
I assume we can put a condition like that on.
We,
Because it's a special permit.
right, it's a special permit, so I think you can create a sunset clause in the special permit, couldn't we?
Well, we've done that.
You could
Yeah, I think we
call it
temporary
limit
sign.
the length of the
It's just
permit.
a question is gonna be how much money is he gonna spend on it? And
Well-
how will it look?
The only problem with that is like we were talking about earlier, one of those other properties is gonna get developed.
Right.
If you go east, those properties have been hanging around now since 1987. So, I mean, we're looking at, 25, 28 years worth of time that,
How far east?
But I think we have to make it
well,
clear.
from Summit all the way to the corner of Harris Whalen Park
Oh,
Road
okay, so-
is under the same provisions of an access road across the
I think we
back.
gotta make it clear that, again, this is, if we do this, this is in lieu of an informational sign. Because otherwise, you could, 5 years down the road, if we don't have it in a resolution,
Yeah, so you could ask him, and he may not know, but can you buy one, can you order one that's convertible, let's say? From a freestanding to an informational one, then maybe that reduces its cost. I don't know if
the
such things
informational one is
exist.
actually bigger.
Yeah, the size area is big, it's
Double.
double,
Yeah.
double square
Well,
foot,
could you
yeah.
put more tenants on it, I
Right.
suppose?
But I mean, you may not want to give up a sign with their
Right.
name on it that's as big as the one they have in the front.
That's right.
Okay.
And that's half the square footage.
How about number 2? Any questions on 2? Pretty clear application.
Yeah, I mean, to me, there were a couple of things that I looked at in terms of the houses to the west, in terms of the buffer, and, at some point, do we look at, if they build this giants, I mean, there's looks like a lot of pens and all kinds of things. Right now, someone might say no problem, and all of a sudden, it's a fairly large, facility they're gonna build there that,
Oh, did you skip down? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, isn't that 2? Yeah, or no, wait.
No, two
You're
is,
four.
Two is the math,
magnesium.
two is-
Oh, sorry, yeah, sorry, I
I
skipped
was
that,
like,
yeah.
wow, geez, I thought that was a simple.
No. That one is, sorry, yeah. That was,
So you started getting to the houses in the,
That's okay.
like the plaza.
Well, go ahead, finish your thought on
Wasn't
4
good
then,
on
yeah.
math.
On 4, yeah, so that was, for 4 at least, that was kind of one of the first things that stuck out to me in terms of, you look at the plan, these 200
Yeah.
by 200 foot blocks that are, and I don't know if necessarily those pens or those water features, I mean, they talked about having a pond and all kinds of things, if those are really all 200 by 200 foot, or they're just kind of saying this is approximately where it's gonna be, it's tough to tell without a real plan of,
Yeah.
Well,
they're all kind of,
I'll caution, because sometimes ponds aren't this body of water.
Right.
A lot of them are just temporary retention ponds
Right.
where the water is stored and then perks into the ground or is let out. So you may not necessarily see
Yeah.
water, you may see some type of wetland aquatic growth growing in there.
but they're talking about for dogs, to
Go
train them,
swimming. Train.
for rehab.
Survey.
Oh, we're on number 4 then.
Sorry, yeah, no, I jumped ahead.
Okay. I thought we were back on number 3.
So no, that's fine. So those are some of the things that I was
Okay,
just.
yeah, well, certainly ask him about that. Have we had any issues with neighbors or anything there? Seems like just the opposite according to the application.
Up to now, nothing, but I will tell you that I'm expecting a gentleman who's going to be building to the west of this subject property.
Okay.
He's going to come in and
Let's
and
hear him
bring
out.
up just that concern.
Okay, jump back to 3. We did get a memo on that, right? After
From planning, yes. That they
planning
was- I think they were
support,
supportive of both.
okay. All right, number 5. This property's been used for this sort of use forever, right?
Well back into the 70s and maybe even the 60s, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
there have been trucking companies there, excavating companies there,
Yeah, okay.
contracting companies there, and
I have a no-brainer. Number 6, another sign.
Where does this sign in relation to the existing sign that's there?
the existing sign, you mean the temporary sign he's got out
Yeah.
there? Probably pretty close to about where it is, yeah. He said he was gonna try to put something out there and leave that temporary sign in location so at least you have some idea of where it was gonna go. But with the kind of snow we've been having and
hard.
it's kind of hard to,
Stop sign at Jackson and Plankin. One of them on the southwest corner. I don't know if somebody hit it recently or what, but it's down. It's almost covered.
there's been a lot of that.
Well, I was in Washington on Monday.
Oh, they
Monday
must have.
night. Monday night I got, and it was pretty. I actually had my flight to Washington was canceled, so I had to go to BWI, and then the shuttle was late and the train was late. But I finally got there. Supposed to get there at 5. I got there at 10:30. The next day, federal government closed.
Yep.
City of DC closed. Schools, of course, were closed.
Everything.
It took me like 6 minutes to get to this meeting I had to go to, when normally it'd probably be 45-minute trip.
Yeah. That's the one nice thing about everything shut down.
Yeah, nobody was in downtown Washington.
And let me tell you,
Nobody.
when you go down there, when you say stay off the road, they stay off the road.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's a holiday for everybody.
it sure was.
We're dealing with a 16-foot width, is that how we're dealing with this?
You mean the
structure, the
stone and
whole
everything,
The whole
yeah?
structure is
That's
part
right,
of it.
yeah.
Number 7,
No problem.
pretty straightforward application, okay. All right, well, we got, kind of moved through that quickly, 6 or 7 minutes at least, so. And welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Penfield Zoning Board of Appeals. Tonight's meeting is going to take place in 2 parts. The first part will be our public hearings. We'll ask the applicant to come up to the podium and give us name and address, and then explain to the board members why the relief being requested should be granted. Once the applicant is done, board members most likely will have some questions, and then we'll invite anyone in the audience that wants to come up and speak about the application to do the same thing. Come up and give us name and address, and then ask questions or just give opinions about the application. After the public hearings are adjourned, we'll take a brief recess, and then we'll reconvene in the back of the room to deliberate on the applications and then to tend to any unfinished business that the board may have. Members of the public are welcome at both the public hearings and the deliberations, although typically we ask that the deliberations be time reserved for conversations amongst board members with staff, or with council. Fairly long agenda tonight, but obviously you're welcome to stay. You can go out and enjoy the warmth outside if you want while we're taking some hearings. If you need to leave or you want to leave, you can certainly call tomorrow, either Allison or Harold or anyone in the planning office, and they'll let you know what action, if any, the board took on any particular item. And I always like to point out every month that it's a town's practice and policy to do many things to notify neighbors that are in the area of applications, that the applications are going to be heard. Town does that via the posting of the agendas on the internet, sending postcards to neighbors if you live within a certain number of feet, having the applicants put signs out, which might be difficult this time of year, but we try to get folks to do that. And then the old-fashioned way, as I like to say, by putting it on the bulletin board in the town hall. We think it works because we do get people here to come in and give their opinions, and that helps us and Harold and Allison do our job. So we appreciate the input. With that being said, I'd ask everyone to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Thanks, folks. And Harold, may we have the first application, please?
Application number 1, Timothy Hens, P.E., 7319 Quinlan Road, Leroy, New York, 14482. On behalf of Dr. Rahul Renjen, requests a special permit for signage under Article 7-7-3 from Article 7-7-11-J, Article 7-7-12-A, Article 7-7-12-D, Article 7-7-12-E, Article 7-7-12-G of the Code to allow a freestanding sign within the right-of-way of Penfield Road, allow freestanding signage on a property where the building has a setback of less than 35 feet, 2 freestanding signs, a freestanding sign with less setback, and an informational sign located along Harris Whalen Park Road and less than 20 feet from Harris Whalen Park Road at 2124 Penfield Road. The property is owned by Gordon Griffin and is zoned BNR. This is SBL number 139.08-1-67. This is application number 15Z-005.
You know, Harold, you write those, so you don't have anyone to blame for how long they are, on how long it takes you.
I know. It's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, I apologize. It sounds like we're asking you to basically ignore your entire signage code, so that's obviously not our intent. My name's Tim Hens. I'm a professional engineer representing Dr. Rahul Renjen, who is proposing to develop a orthodontic office at the corner of Harris Whalen Park Road and Penfield Road. We were obviously here at a previous meeting to get the variances for the setbacks on the lot due to the lot size, and again are back here asking for several variances regarding the signage for the property. As you know, it is a very small lot with limited setbacks. So just the nature of the lot itself and the width of the right-of-way at Penfield Road kind of creates some situations where the signage code is tough to meet. Additionally, the town has asked Dr. Renjen to develop, or to start to be the first one to develop an internal access drive along the rear of the property. And that is really the only way to access the property, and I believe it's the intent that as properties develop along Penfield Road, that internal access driveway will be the method of entering, at least entering those properties to avoid left-hand turns and conflicts on Penfield Road, which makes plenty of sense. Signage is very important for Dr. Renjen. He's going to be new to the community, new to the area. He doesn't have any existing clients that he's bringing from close by, so advertising for him is going to be a big piece of his business, and obviously that's a very busy intersection in a developed area as it is, and he would like, to get his name out, get his logo out, so people know that there's actually an orthodontist there, and he can start attracting clients. So he is proposing to put a freestanding sign. Would be on the northeast corner of the property, right at the corner of Harris Whalen Park and Penfield Road. Again, the width of the right-of-way there on Penfield Road creates a situation where we are actually requesting to put the sign in the DOT right-of-way. We are cognizant that we would be required by DOT to obtain a Perm 33 DOT permit on their behalf to allow that to happen. But we would also require variance from your code to allow a sign within the public right-of-way, and also the fact that we don't meet setback requirements and for both the sign and for being within so close to the property line. Additionally, Dr. Renjen is asking for relief from the code, either in the form of a second freestanding sign, which itself would be a variance, or consideration for an informational sign at the access driveway, the rear access driveway. Currently, I believe the TF overlay only addresses access driveways on Route 250 and Route 441, and since the driveway is actually coming off of Harris Whalen Park Road, I think you would need to somehow consider that in your zoning ordinances in terms of allowing a informational sign on Harris Whalen Park Road rather than 250 or 441. So the internal access driveway does create some issues in terms of trying to direct your clients to your parking lot, to your business, which is the reason why he would like to put a sign at that location. It would be very similar to the one in front. Nothing fancy. We're looking for a freestanding sign that meets your code. It's 5 foot by 4 foot, 20 square foot. Pretty basic. Basically a 2-post sign with his logo on it. Would obviously be splashed with some low impact lighting, not to leave the area of the sign. But again, asking for that either consideration as a second freestanding sign, or somehow to get a relief from the code in terms of an informational sign to deal with the access on that rear driveway. He is obviously willing in the future as it develops to allow that sign to have multiple businesses on it. There will obviously be other tenants in the future down that road that will need to direct their traffic as well, and he is more than willing to allow that sign to be modified to show the other tenants as that happens. So several variances in front of you, kind of an odd request, but that's kind of where we're coming from.
Okay, let's start with the sign in the front, the freestanding one in the front. I want to make sure we get this down. So you basically have a variance to be allowed to be in the right-of-way, correct?
Correct, that's what we're asking for.
The sign in the right-of-way. Now, is that separate and distinct from the variance for the frontage from the roadway? I guess I could ask Harold.
I think there's basically, Harold, if I'm not mistaken, there's 3 variances that we're asking for that sign. It's to be in the right-of-way, the the fact that the building doesn't have the required
Right.
setback to have a freestanding sign, and then I believe there's a setback for the actual sign itself from the property line. So those would be the three
Onto the property.
onto the property, right? We're actually would be off the property in this case,
Is
so.
that side setback from Harris Whalen or both?
Technically, it's a frontage setback, so even, well, the standard relative to, I think, what we're discussing here is that he's got a building that was previously given a variance to be closer to the right-of-way, and I think it's 20 feet or so.
Right.
And you have to have a variance from a provision of the sign ordinance to have a freestanding sign where the building
Building is
is.
35.
Because I believe
less.
the intent is that a building-mounted signage would meet the requirements for a freestanding signage when that building is so close to the road. That's why that provision was put in
Right.
there, so.
And in this case, we're not really on top of the road. The right-of-way is so wide there that, you know, we're actually like 60 feet from the road, from the curb.
Right.
But because the right-of-way is so wide, we're really only like 35 or 30 feet from the right-of-way edge. So
Right.
the
And
building
it's- and
sign is going to be kind of hidden
And it's
by,
the Harris Whalen Park side that doesn't meet that compliance. The Penfield Road side, although you were given a variance for that, is still 30 or 35 feet
Right.
off of that right-of-way.
yeah, we're actually at 35 feet exactly on
Right.
that right-of-way line, so.
Right.
From the Harris Whalen?
From Penfield Road, from Harris Whalen, they're
We're like 22.
22 or less,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which
And the sign's going to be on the corner, so you would be, I
Right.
guess, those are both frontage, because they're both roads, so that's why we put in for that variance.
Right.
All right, explain to me again, since the building is so far forward, why does he feel the need to have a freestanding sign as well as the building mounted?
Because we are, you know, when you actually measure from the road curb to the front of the building, it's like 60 feet. The Penfield Road's right-of-way is in excess of 100 feet, so, you know, from the actual property line to the building's 35 feet, it's another 30 feet to the curb, so, you know, we're going to be substantially back, you know, the building's back further than it appears when you're looking at the actual property. And with all the traffic at the intersection and you know, there's a street light there, and there's going to be some, you know, some landscaping trees and things, the doctor's worried that his sign's going to kind of get buried into the building a little bit, so he was pretty adamant about having a freestanding sign to attract clients at that corner.
Okay,
65 feet.
65?
Yeah, from the edge of the curb. I think there's a curb out there.
Yeah, there is a curb there.
Yeah.
Excuse me for a second. Okay. My understanding from reading the code is an informational sign requires an access road serving 2 or more properties, which clearly we don't have at this point. In fact, we don't have an access road at all, but
Right.
when it's completed, it'll serve that property with the idea that eventually it's going to service other properties to the west.
Right, the planning board directed us toward having the internal access road because they are looking,
Right.
obviously, as properties develop to the west, their intent is to have as many of those properties use that access drive to access their parking lots. They don't want people turning left off of Penfield Road to access parking lots. They would be okay with people exiting from parking lots to turn right to continue west on Penfield, but they're trying to, and I understand why, it makes complete sense to try to get your traffic to a controlled intersection rather than having all those uncontrolled left turns, so we're the first one out of the gate, I guess. We get to be the guinea pig a little bit, so,
Well, technically the second.
second.
Because this property previously had been approved for another
Right.
use.
True. The obvious question I had is why not go with a directional sign which doesn't require a variance, since the primary purpose is to indicate where the parking is and where that access road is, so people know to turn left there, as opposed to another whole freestanding sign that's similar to the one you have in front.
When you refer to a direction sign, you just mean like, you know, like an arrow, like an
I think it
enter,
says parking orthodontist. with
just
an
enter
arrow.
here.
I mean, that doesn't require a variance, right? Yeah, it does not, if it's directional.
As long as it met the size criteria, 2 square feet, yeah, you wouldn't need a variance for that.
I mean, at this point, that's really what you need to do, and it seems to me you can accomplish that without the variance. Have you explored this with the doctor?
I mean, he's pretty pretty stuck on the signage. He's really, I mean, I know he sent a letter in support because he couldn't be here tonight. He's out of town as one of his family members is getting married this weekend. He's been very adamant about the signage, just because he's so new to the area and he doesn't want people to be confused as to where to go and things like that.
With all due respect, I'm not trying to be glib, but obviously, if you had your choice between one freestanding sign or two freestanding signs from an advertising point of view, you'd rather go with two signs. But if the purpose is to locate where that access road is, seems to me, couldn't you accomplish the same thing with a directional sign at this point?
Yeah, you probably could.
Okay.
I think he's just kind of thinking ahead as that develops. You're probably going to have other businesses that are going to want to put their sign there as well, and then he gets lost with, we could come back, obviously, and ask for that second sign, but just trying to
Yeah,
keep
that
us-
was my next question. Assuming that we allowed that second freestanding sign the way he's proposing it, would he have a problem with us conditioning that sign, allowing that sign, on the fact that there's no informational sign, and when there was an informational sign, his right to have that sign would end? You follow what I'm saying?
Or you're saying as properties develop west?
Yeah, you're going to have to put an informational
Right.
sign there. If the idea is this is serving as an informational sign, or will serve in the future, rather than give you a sign that's half the size of an informational sign. I mean, you're allowed 40 square feet. For a freestanding sign, you're only allowed 20 square feet.
Right.
Would he be opposed to a condition that says if and when that properties to the west get developed, that an informational sign will substitute for this one, and he'll have to take
No,
it
he's
down?
not opposed to that at all.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, Mike, do you mind if I interrupt?
No, go ahead.
That might, you answered quickly, which is fine, but that may involve, we were sort of talking before in our work session about whether there's a sign that could be converted, because that may involve some expense. And it's great that your client's willing to be flexible, but I just want to make sure that we won't condition something and then hear that it costs $15,000, $20,000, which I have no clue, but
Right.
we don't want to make it so onerous that it can't ever be done. Thanks, Mike.
Okay. Well, that's actually all the questions I had.
Question I had about the sign in front. Any issues or concerns about that sign obstructing any view of drivers or pedestrians where it's proposed to be located?
No, we actually, I did look into that when we placed it where we did. Where it's being placed now is actually, where we're proposing to place it right now is all brush and trees. So there's already an obstruction there, and it's actually far enough back that when you're at the stop bar for the intersection, it doesn't obstruct your view to the east or the west. So it's set back far enough from in the road right away that it doesn't cause an obstruction.
Okay, and is your client going to be the only doctor practicing at the location?
Yes.
All right. He was very candid about the purpose for the signs in his letter, and we appreciate that. We don't often hear such candor sometimes. But any other methods of advertising do you know that he's going to engage in when he starts up?
I don't know. I can't answer that.
Okay. It would seem to me that maybe I'm wrong, but for a startup orthodontist, a big part of his or her business is going to be referral business. I would think, no matter where the location is. So I assume he's going to make friends with a lot of dentists and try to get those referrals. Okay. Any other questions for the
I
board?
have one more.
Sure.
How are these signs going to be lit? Are they going to be internally lit, externally lit?
Externally, just floodlights, and we're going to have landscaping around the bottom of both the signs. We would bury some landscape lighting in the garden and wash the signs.
And hours of illumination, do you know that?
I think he would probably do it from sunset till maybe 10 or 11 o'clock at night. I don't think it would be 24 hours a day.
All right, again, then I have a question. Is he going to be operating till 10, 11 o'clock?
He informed to me that sometimes has clients in till 8 or 9 o'clock at night.
Okay. Would he have a problem if we tied it into, at least the sign in the back, tied it into his hours of operation?
I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone in the audience care to speak about this application? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Application number 2, Aylin Wynn, Mathnasium of Penfield, 1802 Penfield Road, Penfield, New York, 14526. Requests a conditional use permit under Article 10-10-4 and Article 3-3-115-1 of the Code to allow a commercial school at 2157 Penfield Road. The property is owned by Wegmans Food Market Incorporated and is zone GBTF. This is SBL number 139.02-1-2.3. This is application number 15Z-0009.
Good evening.
2.5 years ago, I opened the Mathnasium of Penfield. I'm sure many of you have seen it. It's in the plaza behind Dunkin' Donuts at the Four Corners. And it's been a great experience. But what I hear a lot from parents is that, you know, it's so hard to get into that plaza. And because of the law there, I wasn't allowed to put a big sign up. So it was hard for people to see. And so an opportunity recently came up within the Wegmans Target Plaza between Joann Fabrics and Speedy's Cleaner. I think it used to be an art store there. So anyway, it's smaller than what I have now, but the location is great, the visibility is great, and I hope to get a lot more foot traffic than what I'm getting today. So I'm here to ask for a permit. And it should be pretty easy because there's no change. There's no change to ingress or egress or parking. There's no potential impact to both present and future uses. And it's very compatible with the general area. There's no tutoring that I know of in the area. It fits nicely in there. And the signage has been already approved by Andy, and it meets the dimensional requirements of the Penfield Town Code. Noise level, it's going to be very low. You know, kids just come there after school to do their homework, get ready for tests, so there's no noise at all. Clear sight distance, as you know, there are 2 traffic lights at the intersection, so no change at all. Exterior lighting, whatever is there now, that's what I have. And the proposed hours are Monday to Thursday, 3 to 8 p.m., and Saturday, 9 to 1. So those are school year hours. As for summer, it will be Monday to Friday, 1 to 6. So I hope that I get your permission to move forward, because the only change in that room, really, in that building, is because it's a school classroom kind of situation, I had to put 3 windows in the walls. But that's it. You know, we paint it, so it's ready. So,
Okay.
any questions for me?
Yeah. How many staff members besides yourself? Is there anyone else besides you there?
Yeah, I have about 8 to 10 part-time instructors. So on a typical day, there'll be about 3 or 4 instructors, not including me.
Mm-hmm. And is it normally one-on-one students, or do you have a lot of students? Do they get just dropped off, or?
We have a main room that can hold about 15 kids, okay. And then I have another room that is for private tutoring that can hold about 5 or 6 kids.
Okay.
So it's no more than 20, 25 kids at any one
right.
time.
So there's plenty of parking outside for that. That's not
yes.
a problem.
Yes.
And you're not going to put anything outside the doors. There's not going to be anything blocking the walkway or anything there?
No, I ask Wegmans, because as you know, this is owned by Wegmans, if every now and then I can put like a A-frame, you know, because as the school year passes, you know, we have different things, like right now is SAT. In a few weeks it'll be summer program, but it's not a daily thing. So I hope that's okay.
No, that's good. No, you were very thorough. You covered everything. You answered all my questions already, so that was good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Anybody in the audience want to come up and do some multiplication tables or anything? Thank you very much.
Application number 3.
I won that contest in 3rd grade at St. Margaret Mary's multiplication table. I really did. Got a chocolate bar from Sister something or other.
You got through the 1 times table, huh?
Yeah, oh, no. Long time ago, but I remember that.
Application number 3, Adam Frozino, P.E., McFarland Johnson, 2525 State Road 332, Canandaigua, New York 14424. On behalf of Penfield Place LLC, requests an expansion of a pre-existing non-conforming use under Article 4-4-15 of the Code to allow an expansion of existing nursing home and an area variance under Article 4-4-2-A of the Code to allow parking lot expansion with less buffer at 1700 Penfield Road. The property is owned by Penfield Place Properties LLC and is zoned BNR. This is SBL number 139.05-1-51. This is application number 15Z-0010.
Hi.
Good evening, Board. My name is Adam Frosino. I'm representing McFarland Johnson. Our address is 2525 State Route 332, Canandaigua, New York 14424. I'm here on behalf of Penfield Properties, or Penfield Place Properties LLC. They are a subsidy of the Hurlbut Care Communities. If you're not familiar with them, they own 11 nursing homes in the area, and Penfield Place is one of their 11 locally owned nursing homes. Give a little bit of background on the project in general. Currently, there are 24 units in the nursing home that accounts for 48 beds, so it's double occupancy for each room. There's 16,800 square feet, 32 parking spaces with 2 handicap spaces, and the building's almost 50 years old. So this project is to upgrade the facility by adding on and meeting more industry trends of single occupancy rooms. So the addition would be the wing off the back side of the building, you see in the images, and what will result is 26 new units and a total occupancy of 60 beds, so there'll be a 12-bed increase. However, majority of them now will be single occupancy rooms as opposed to double occupancy. Also included in the project is significant upgrades to the facility. These include residents as well as staff amenities, for example, such as nursing stations, training rooms, supply rooms, laundry facilities, a secondary dining room, things of that nature, just to really spruce up this facility that's 50 years old and hasn't seen a major renovation. We have met with the planning board. We met for a sketch plan review on December 11th, as well as a preliminary final review on February 12th. The planning board is very supportive of the project, and we're in the process now of getting our final site plan approval. So the reason we're here tonight is for 2 variances. One is an expansion to pre-existing non-conforming use. That is due to the nursing home being within a business non-retail district, which a nursing home is actually not an approved use. This occurred due to the 1981 restructuring of the town code. The building was obviously constructed in the mid-1960s, so it was actually grandfathered in, but when it got recoded, it was essentially non-conforming at that point. All of the adjacent uses are the residential, the multi-residential, are all nursing homes are permitted uses. So this is the only use in the zoning map that is not permitted to have nursing home facility. So it's kind of unique and a weird situation here. For the variance for the 50-foot, our second variance is for variance to the 50-foot residential buffer, and that has to do with the expansion of the employee parking lot, which is on the northwest side of the property off to the back. Currently, today, it's a single row of parking. All cars pull in and face the adjacent neighbors, and the proposed parking is to have 2-sided parking by expanding off towards the property line, and that would infringe on the 50-foot buffer by about 15 feet, give or take in areas. So there'd be a 35-foot separation from the edge of the parking lot to the property line, as opposed to the 50-foot. I'm not sure if it's this board's standard practice to go through the 5 factors. Or is that not
covered it pretty
necessary?
well in your written application.
Okay. I won't go through each one individually then. I'll just state a couple things that are critical to this variance. There's a row of existing mature trees.
Would you
that-
feel more comfortable with the-
Sure.
Maybe try to reach out.
Yeah. So there's a row of existing mature trees currently between the parking lot and the building. There's also a row of existing mature trees between the parking lot and the adjacent properties. So the goal here is to put the parking between those trees and not have to remove any trees. They're very large, mature maple trees. They're a critical asset to the community and especially some of the residents. They look outside their windows and they've got bird feeders on these trees. These trees mean a lot to them. If we didn't get this variance in order to meet the parking code, we would have to expand the parking lot towards the building and remove all these 6 mature maple trees. Also, as mitigation for the variance, we have a dense row of evergreen shrubs that will be planted at 5.5 feet high as a form of screening for the property. Another addition to this project is the existing dumpster area is currently not enclosed. It's really just an asphalt pavement area where the dumpsters sit. Part of the project would be to have it be a very formal dumpster area with a full enclosure with landscaping around the closure, really make it look a lot nicer than it does today. And that enclosure would match all the other enclosures for the new HVAC units around the building. So everything would kind of have a nice continuous look to it. And I think that's all I had as far as presentation material. I don't know if you had any questions on the...
Yeah. The evergreens you're talking about, are those going to sit are they going to sit on the nursing home side of the trees that you talked about?
They will sit between the proposed, they're right behind the mature trees that are between the parking lot and the adjacent properties.
So they're going to go on the neighbor's side of the trees?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
In addition to the trees?
And those were added, they were installed and suggested at the sketch plan by the planning board. It was the applicant's intent to put them in, but we made them pretty dense, and they're, the planting height of those is going to be 5.5 feet, so screening any headlights and things of that nature.
For our viewers and audience, could you just generally on the conceptual rendering show with your hand, which is the existing structure and which is the...
The existing structure is this kind of T shape.
Okay.
And the proposed is this, it's another wing with a couple little bump outs.
Right, okay.
Best way to describe it. So what we did was, one of the other suggestions from the planning board was, can you move any parking to the east side? And we did that. There's 9 parking spaces over in this area, as well as the 38 spaces up here.
All right, this double row of parking that you're proposing, is that going to have access just one way? In other words, do you have to come in through the existing driveway and make a left-hand turn? Or are you going to be able to access it from either direction?
This is a 2-way access drive.
Right.
And it's a 20-foot wide access aisle, so it is 2-way. I'm not sure if that's what you're asking.
The way it's set up now, as you drive into the parking area, there's spaces to the left, correct? You'd have to make a left-hand turn into the parking?
Correct.
And you're going to put a strip beyond that to add another row?
No. The lane will go right down the middle. They'll be parking on the left and the right.
Okay.
So another benefit to this, as far as an impact to the neighbors, would be during majority of the time, people are going to use the closest spots possible. So the spots where the headlights are not shooting at the neighbors will be used primarily, and then during the first shift, when they have the maximum amount of their employees there, the other spots will be utilized. That'll be during daytime, won't be during headlight usage, I'll call it.
Okay, so again, I'm trying to conceptualize this. So the row of existing parking spots would remain the way they are?
No.
Okay.
That would be essentially turned into the drive aisle. You can see there's an aerial underneath our proposed, and you can see the cars are parking right currently in our proposed drive aisle.
Okay.
Currently, you come up the hill, and you have to go to the right slightly, and then pull into each slot. Where now you'll come up, and you'll just go straight, and you can turn left or right into two different
So really,
rows.
the strip you're adding is one row of parking spaces?
Correct. We're adding about 20 feet of pavement width, a strip along there of parking, and 15 feet of it is within the 50-foot buffer.
The lighting, could you go into the lighting? What's in there? How is that lit now, and how will it be lit once this is done?
Yep. Currently today, it is lit by some floodlights that are on the sides of the building, as well as another light at the end of the lot. And they are not what I would consider commercial lighting. It's more residential floodlights that you'd see on top of someone's garage. So they shoot out. And the proposed lighting would be all dark sky compliant, LED, solid state lighting, very modern lighting that will direct everything down. And there's zero spillage onto the neighbor's property as opposed to what's happening today. Should be a significant improvement to what's out there today. So what we're proposing is to replace the two fixtures that are there today, as well as add a fixture onto the addition, but to replace the existing fixture that's on the end of the building today. And then there'll be two post-mounted residential style looking lights that are shooting down though. I have cut sheets of them if you'd like to see them.
Well, just how high would they be?
12 feet.
12 feet high?
A typical, just to give you an idea, typical commercial lighting is anywhere between 20 and 30 feet. So these are significantly lower.
And what would the neighbors be able to see, if anything? I mean, would they be able to tell there's light there?
They would probably be able to see the lights during the winter months when there's not the dense, vegetation. And during the winter months, though, they're going to see lights. They won't be glaring into the windows or anything of that nature. You'll be able to see it off into the distance like you see on dark sky compliant light fixtures these days.
Okay. So you don't see any glare going in towards the neighbors there?
No, not with the LED technology nowadays is very directional, and all these fixtures are directional. And there is I do have the photometric light contours that show the light intensities. And we did go with the lower end of the code. We have an average light intensity in the parking area of 0.7 foot candles, which is quite low, but it meets the safety factor. You'll get, commercial plazas for retail, they'll be up in the 2, 3, and we're at 0.7.
What's there now, do you know?
We do not know what's there. It's not much. It's not proper lighting is what it really comes down to. It's spread.
Okay. One of the things we have to look at when you're talking about an expansion of a pre-existing non-conforming use is showing that it permits greater compliance with the zoning ordinance to make this change. Could you address that briefly? How is this proposed project permit greater compliance with the zoning ordinance?
I'm not sure it necessarily does with the zoning in the district that it's in today, which is business non-retail. It really shouldn't necessarily be in that zoning today. So I think by expanding it, it's not necessarily making it more practical to be in that zone. I think it should be more of a residential zone. If this this is a permitted use in a residential zone.
Actually, if you don't mind me interrupting, Mike, as well, is one of the justifications that we've relied on in the past to comply with that requirement is that the improvements that are being made are going to make the property more modern, let's say, more aesthetically pleasing, more efficient. And I think you would agree that the plans that you have here accomplish all of those things. And actually nowadays, it seems to me, I'm no expert, but nowadays facilities like this are being designed to be more residential in nature rather than hospital-like, let's say.
I didn't know that was the intent of the question. I thought you were trying to say, how are we complying to the code? But yes, from that aspect, this would be a much more of a senior living center as opposed to what it is currently today, like you suggested. It's more of a hospital feel, a small hospital feel, as opposed to, nicer, amenities for the residents.
Did I understand you to say that this is the only parcel in that whole group that's zoned business non-residential?
That's correct.
Everything around it is residential of some sort?
Is something else. It's not just necessarily residential. There's multi,
Multiple residents,
there's MR.
Family resident, there's limited business. It was sort of created in its own little world down there, and it didn't make a heck of a lot of sense. And it would have, it would be a permitted or conditionally permitted use in a single-family residential zone, in a limited business zone, and a multiple residence zone.
Which is
just
what's
isn't a
all
permitted
around
use
it.
in this zone.
So they took an existing nursing home and rezoned it so that it was out of compliance? No, I'm just, that's what they did?
In effect, that's what happened, yes.
Thanks.
And one good point I think that needs to be made also is that if we were in one of those other residential zones, the 50-foot buffer wouldn't even exist.
Right.
It wouldn't even be applicable.
Right.
Sure. Thank you. That's all I have.
Good questions. Are any other questions from the board?
Are there any improvements? What are the kind of improvements that are happening with the existing building?
The
Windows, doors, things like that, or anything, or?
No, the existing building, I mean, it constantly gets maintained. It meets all code. They recently put a sprinkler system in there over the last couple of years. It's just going to get less densely populated is really what's going to happen there. And some of the staff amenities are not going to be used for multi-purposes and be cluttered now. They're going to spread out a little. So there's no physical changes to the existing building.
Anyone else from the board? Anyone in the audience care to speak about this application? Yes. Okay.
Come on up. Oh, why don't you keep it right there in case she needs to use it. It's still got a green light on it?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Mary Williams. I live at 137 Winterset Drive. My property, my backyard backs up to the parking of the nursing home. And myself and my neighbors, we don't have an issue whatsoever with the nursing home or the expansion of the nursing home. It's the expansion of the parking. I'm assuming that this room right here is probably 45 feet, between 40 and 50 feet from this wall to that wall. And so that's the buffer that you're looking at right now in terms of where cars are currently parked. And by adding another row of parking, you're bringing it 15 feet closer to our property line, encroaching on our property line. I'm already looking at headlights. They talk about the evergreen trees. Yes, there are evergreen trees there, but like everything has a shelf life, these evergreen trees have seen better days. The bottoms of those evergreens are gone. So you're looking directly at the cars. I can tell you the colors of the cars that park there right now and when they come and go. I think that the nursing home itself sits on property that's about 6.5 acres. The majority of that acreage is in the front or on the other side where it doesn't encroach on residences. And I think that if you're going to put in additional parking, then allow that parking to be put someplace where it's not going to encroach on my property and also my neighbor's property. The majority of those parking spaces will actually be behind my neighbor's home. She couldn't be here tonight. She's out of town, but she's not in favor of it. Instead of looking at one lane or one row of parked cars, we're now going to be looking at 2 rows of parked cars. And I understand it's probably cost effective for the nursing home to put the parking where they want to. On the other hand, it devalues my property. When we bought our home, which is over 30 years ago, one of the reasons we bought it was because we were told that the land behind us was forever wild. Everybody says to me, this is not even a term that they recognize anymore. In any case, though, there is a lot of wildlife back there. Just before I came here tonight, there were 6 deer that were in that 50-foot buffer zone that they're talking about, where the, to where the parking lot currently is. I bought that property because I wasn't looking at a backyard, because at that time also the evergreens were so thick, I couldn't see the parking lot that's there now. I recognize that they want to do some landscaping, and that's fine, but perhaps if you're going to do landscaping, build a berm and make the landscaping a little bit more involved than just adding a few trees here and there. Or my real suggestion is spend a little bit more money and move the parking lot somewhere else on the property. I think that covers what I have to say, but I am obviously not in favor of having 2 rows of parking that I'm going to be looking at and my neighbors will be looking at, and encroaching that much closer on my backyard. My backyard is like a park. People come into my yard and they feel like they're in their own private park. They say that all the time. This will take away from my private park.
Isn't there a stockade fence along the?
That's my neighbor's.
Okay, so you're beyond that?
And we're on the other side of the fence. So the majority of that parking that currently exists is actually behind her house. She couldn't be here today, she's out of town. She wanted to send a letter, and I don't know if she got a letter off to you or not.
But that would block the direct headlights, right?
You would be surprised, it does and it doesn't, because she is currently, like, all the bedrooms in the back, she looks right down on that parking lot. She has young children who, they have a playground in the back of the yard where kids play. So again, you bring the cars that much closer, we can, the people that work in the nursing home, they come out to their cars to smoke their cigarettes. You can smell that smoke. And I'm saying, so that with kids, you hear the conversations, of the people. And I just don't think that it's necessary to create 2 rows of parking in that area when you have so much other property which could also accommodate more parking. And I don't care, I know I've been told, well, the employee entrance is there. Well, when I was working, I had to park in a company parking lot that was 2 blocks away from the employee entrance. Big deal. If these people now have to walk 100 feet instead of 40 feet to the employee entrance, I don't see where that's a problem. They don't want to encroach on where the parking is for people, visitor parking. Well, everybody has visitor parking and employee parking, and I think it can still be accommodated in such a way where it doesn't affect our residences and also accommodates the people who work there and who visit there.
What about the noise? Particularly in the evening when you're asleep or something?
Oh, the noise?
The noise, yeah. Is there car slamming and radios
you can hear,
or
yes,
whatever?
obviously you hear the cars and people talking, and that's natural. But that's my point, is that why make that? It's already there. We don't have to add another row of that. I don't know, how many parking spaces are there currently in that row?
Why don't you come on up here, because actually I'm going to ask you to come up when she's done as well and try to address some of her concerns. But you mind repeating your question, ma'am?
How many parking spaces are there actually?
There's currently 20, and there will be 38.
Okay.
So you're basically doubling it, and again, moving it. This is the, like I said, this room is probably what, 40, 45 feet. So we're talking a buffer of 50 feet. I think a lot of the cars actually are closer. I don't think the headlights that I'm looking at from my backyard are 50 feet from my property line. I think a lot of them are closer than that. And you'll be moving it all, 15 feet closer? And possibly more in some cases, right?
Where's your lot on that map? Can you show us?
My lot is right here.
Okay, thank you.
All right, yeah, right here. So This is part of my lot right here. This is the lot with the fence. And yes, there are evergreen trees that are here. Those evergreen trees have seen better days. I don't know how long they've been there. Obviously a long time. I think there's a better way to handle this other than moving the lot, that lane of parking closer to our property, creating a road down the middle, and then having another lane of parking on the other side.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You mind coming back up?
Did you want her to just stay close, just in case there's...
She's welcome to sit wherever she likes. You can stay up front, you can sit in back.
Just in case there's additional
sit in
interaction
front.
between you and the board, just...
Oh, sorry. Actually, come on back up now. I didn't, he has a question for you. Sit down. Let her come back.
Just when you thought you got away.
We need an aide there.
Yeah. One of the things I saw, you mentioned a dirt berm. If there was a dirt berm, a fence, would those remedy some of those things? I mean, that was something you brought up, so is that something you'd be in favor of?
I don't care to have a fence back there. If the far side of my yard is really very wooded. I mean, actually, when we first moved into the house, you looked at our backyard, and it looked as though it was just a woods that went on forever. Some of that brush has been removed, I think some of the, have they done?
Yeah.
Yes,
we
yeah,
developed-
because of
we
the,
developed a detention
when they were
facility
building
back
the
there.
retention
Right.
pond, exactly. Which is another issue that we have too, is because we already have an issue with groundwater in our backyards, and I think by encroaching further with pavement, we're going to have more groundwater in our backyards. That's already a problem. In the spring you can, and in the summer there's times when you can't even mow back there, you know. And obviously putting more pavement back there and putting it closer again to our property, I think will create a further issue. If I was going to be happy with anything, it would be if there was a berm that was built with then landscaping on top of that. And also, not just in this small area here, but going all the way across my neighbor's property too, which is what she would want also.
Do you have a two-story home?
Yes. And that's one thing about, we did talk about lighting before, and I think that the nursing home has turned off some of the exterior lighting, because that was an issue in the past where the lights would shine into our windows. But all the homes are two-story.
Okay.
And my neighbor actually, from her bedroom and her children's bedroom, they're looking right down on a row of cars right now. They would then be looking down on 2 rows of cars. And I don't care what direction they're parked in. I didn't buy a house to be looking at a parking lot. And I think once you have 2 rows of parking, you've gone from having parking to having a parking lot.
Okay. Any other questions for her? All right. Do you mind coming back up? First of all, I would like to point out, we did receive a memo from the planning board. And you appeared before the planning board 1 time, 2 times?
We did a sketch plan on
Okay.
December 11th, and then we were there for preliminary and final just last week, a week ago from today.
Okay, and the memo from the planning board to this zoning board indicates that that board is supportive of your application. Just wanted to note that for the record. I don't know, ma'am, if you were able to go to that meeting or not, but in any event.
I was at both planning board meetings.
Okay, great,
Okay.
thanks.
And like I said, we don't have an issue with the nursing home itself. You did ask about noise, though, and the one thing I forgot to mention is that dumpster.
Yeah.
The dumpster is empty between 4 and 4:30 every night. And yes, it wakes everybody up every night. So that's something that should be addressed. But I think that has to be addressed.
A dumpster is emptied at 4 in the morning?
between 4 and 4:30 every morning.
It's not uncommon.
It's unbelievable.
For the commercial haulers to be moving
Yeah.
that early and.
Wow,
and
okay.
I think generally the planning board, as part of their property maintenance agreements and so forth, tries to limit that time that they're allowed to arrive to a lot later in the morning, so that they're not impacting the adjacent properties owners who are potentially sleeping their sound sleep.
A lot of these topics were touched at the planning board meeting.
Okay.
Part of the.
So let me
plans.
ask you, you've heard her concerns, and I'm sure it's not the first time because you were at the planning board. Where else did you look at to put the parking?
We put the parking on the east side, and this is a fire lane that was required by the fire marshal, and it is right up against an EPOD for a steep slope EPOD. So this is the only area that we have that avoids environmental impacts, which is another one of the factors that we considered. The whole front of the property is significantly sloped. You have to go up to the property.
So it's my yard.
It's not, there's
It
no
is a driveway.
room for parking that would meet ADA codes.
All right. So from an engineering standpoint, an environmental standpoint, you ruled out other locations for the expansion of parking.
That is correct. We looked into other ones. We added a couple more parking spaces over here. We infringed on some of the green space, but we made it work.
Okay.
And we tried to minimize the amount of parking. Also, I mean, there's 34 employees, 34 to 40 during the first shift, depending on whether there's a doctor there today or not, or things of that nature. And there, coincidentally, is 38 parking spots in the back. The back is reserved for employee parking, where visitors would go and park in the front. So that's just how the nursing home operates. They don't want employees parking up front, and then a visitor comes and can't park, or a lot of the visitors are disabled, so they don't want them to have to park in a
Well, I assume that your client would be willing to put in place rules that there shouldn't be any loitering, if you will. You know, the idea of going to your car and smoking a cigarette, if that's causing concerns, and it obviously is, since she said it was, I would hope that your client would be willing to make rules against that.
That would.
And have you had any conversations with the neighbors, either this woman or the woman that wasn't able to make it today, about potential buffering in addition to what you've?
We talked about it with the neighbors at the previous two planning board meetings, in a more formal setting, not a private setting, so to speak.
Okay. Some of the thoughts that you've heard expressed here with the berm and?
That was discussed pretty thoroughly with the planning board, and when you look at grades, it just doesn't work out in that back area.
What does that mean? Just so I understand and so she understands.
They were concerned. The planning board was concerned that when you start messing with the grades back there, you're going to destroy all the existing trees that we're trying to save.
Okay.
You're going to destroy the root system, which I agree with. You know, you can't just start clearing things out and expect all the plants to, these large trees to stay alive. So what was agreed upon was a very dense row of new evergreen trees to supplement the existing ones. That was determined to be the best solution.
And I also, maybe I'm assuming too much, but she makes a point about the current trees dying, and they do seem to die from the bottom up. So I assume your client wouldn't be opposed to a condition that those should be replaced whenever they don't serve the purpose as a buffer anymore.
I'm sure we can work on some sort of a agreement or terms that our client would be in favor of. They were the ones that actually wanted to go with more of a landscaping buffer as opposed to anything else, because that's what their residents like too. You know, the residents don't like looking out at just a fence.
Yeah. Okay. Any other board questions? Anyone else in the audience care to speak about this? Okay, thank you.
I just have a comment to a couple of your comments. In regard to environmental issues, and you said that you couldn't bring parking out this way because of the way the ground slopes, et cetera, because of environmental issues. But how about creating pavement which is moving towards our property. And like I
That
said,
was a
there
good
is
point.
already a
I'm glad you
drainage-
stood up again. I forgot to, let me have you come up again and address the concern about putting additional asphalt is not going to result in people's yards getting wetter than they apparently already are.
And this was also discussed at the planning board meeting.
And the planning board did mention that, yes, that there is a drainage issue there.
Correct.
There always has been.
And all of
Which is
the
why there's a
additional,
holding pond there now.
all of the additional impervious is being mitigated through DEC compliant practices. They're all green infrastructure practices. We've got additional rain gardens, tree planter areas, and landscaping strips. And all of the additional runoff that will be going into the courtyard is being directed down through a drainage system out and down the ditch and out to Penfield Road.
But that's
So
on the other side of the building.
that's
Okay, so how about the additional asphalt from the added parking spots? Where's the water going to go when it hits that?
currently sheet flows in this direction, and there's, the pond is back in this area, and there's landscape filter strips that meet DEC stormwater management manual criteria to mitigate that area of impervious.
So it's being directed away from the neighbors?
It currently is today. It flows it flows kind of in this direction and then meanders its way down. There's a stream that comes through this area, and then the pond is kind of right here that was built by the town. So all the water eventually makes its way to that pond and then out the stream through now a newly installed by the town control structure.
So will this be graded in that direction?
Correct. There's going to be no grading change other than adding the parking lot. That area is actually, if it wasn't grass, it could be pavement and it could be parked on today. It's a lawn area that is the same slope as the pavement's going to be. There's going to be very, very minimal impacts to grading in that area. That's why it's an ideal spot to extend the parking. There's no impacts.
Well,
Other
for the
than the-
neighbors.
Other than yeah.
Okay. Actually, the water doesn't flow in that direction. The pond, the holding pond, was actually built because of the hill. On 5 Mile Line Road, when there was a housing development put in that's over by where the bus depot is, the school buses.
Shuttleville.
Right, okay. That was supposed to be addressed at the time with regard to environmental aspects and drainage and water. What happens, and ever since that housing development went in, all the water comes down the hill, and at that creek, which is a tributary to Irondequoit Creek, after heavy rainstorms and that, it was flooding over the road and going down the road and flooding neighbors' basements actually further down Winterset Road. So that holding pond has nothing to do really with water draining from this direction, because the water that's coming into our backyard is not coming from the creek. The creek is over here. Our property and the house next to us, the creek runs between us. And the water that was coming all coming down the hill from 5 Mile Line Road, that housing development back there.
Yeah, I think it
And
comes
where
as
that-
far as Baird Road.
Right. So that's where, and the backs of our yards are just, like I said, they could be it's like a swamp back there sometimes. And I think that has to do currently with the fact that there's already pavement there that, and not appropriate drainage.
Okay. Anyone else in the audience?
Dan, I had one other quick question.
Sure.
Just to clarify, for you, the number of are the number of spaces that this is fulfilling, are all of them needed?
They are all needed.
They're required.
We're meeting, they're required and they're needed. We meet the town requirements, and they actually jive quite well with the actual demand. Currently, there is a demand for parking there. You'll commonly see employees parking on the grass because there's no spots left. So there is a need for these parking spaces, and our client did consider that, you know, when we were going through the design process. They're trying to minimize their impacts and their costs too. They don't want to build a parking lot that's not going to be filled. So, like I said, there's 38 spaces. There's anywhere from 34 to 40 employees during the first shift, the daytime shift. And then the front has 16 spaces, and 4 of which are handicap.
And those are visitor spaces
Those are-
in the front.
Those are visitors and rehab patients.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else in the audience? All right, thank you both very much. Thank you.
Application number 4, Dr. Christina Brown, DVM, Deliberation, Acres Rehab and Fitness, 1748 Kennedy Road, Webster, New York, 14580, requests a conditional use permit under Article 10-10-4 and Article 3-3-36-K to allow a veterinary rehabilitation and fitness business at 1724 Kennedy Road. The property is owned by Christine and Dana Brown and is zoned R8S2. This is SBL number 111.01-1-8.1. This is application number 15Z-0011.
Wife, Dr. Kristen Brown, and she's the vet. I'm the business manager, so I get to do the talking. I must say I was in Southern California for the last 5 days, and we will, in the East Coast, will have much greater appreciation for spring than anybody out there ever could. Our current business there, Vet Acres, has been a business since first appointments were in 2006, and happily the business has been growing steadily. We do physical therapy and rehabilitation work for dogs and horses. Right now, all of the horse work is off-site at other people's. We travel to their barns, and she does chiropractic and acupuncture. And but the business is continuing to grow. We've currently actually moved out of the house at 1748, purchased the property at 1724 Kennedy, where we currently live, and the whole residence there is being used for business purposes. Pretty much, we've used every square inch of that property that we could at this point, and we are out of room, and the business is continuing to grow. And this is something we've been planning for a number of years. We've met preliminarily with the planning board and with Harold several different occasions, and have realized that it's come to the point where we need to expand. And we've looked at a number of different possibilities, and the one that seems to make the most sense financially, as well as just impact-wise and the way we want to develop the new facility, is to use the 9.5, 10-acre open field that's currently to the west of our residence there at 1724 Kennedy, and build just a whole brand new facility there that's going to encompass everything that we need, effectively approximately doubling our current capacities and size of, well, not size, more than doubling the size, but doubling our capacity. Right now we're very, very cramped. So doubling the capacity and giving us enough room to actually work much more efficiently. The current plans for the current residence there at 1748 would then be to convert that back to residential use, either for family of ours or employees, or perhaps another veterinarian that we would be bringing in. They could use that as a residence. But that would be residential use. We wouldn't have any of our business down on that property then, so that whole property would be converted back. I submitted the letter of intent. I felt covered everything ingress, egress is effectively at the middle of the property here, roughly the middle of the right-of-way. So there's plenty of sight distance both directions. Parking for staff and clients. We have a good feel for the number of people coming and going. Right now, most of our appointments are set up on a one-at-a-time basis. Every now and then we'll have 2 or 3 people there at a time if we have some overlap from appointments, or if we have somebody dropping off or picking up a boarding dog. But most of our appointments are kind of one after the other. So with the new facility, we would plan to have a second vet, so we might have double appointments we might have more people coming and dropping off dogs, but we don't anticipate a significant increase in the in the amount of traffic when you look at the scale of that road. Everything about our current facility is designed to fit within the character of the neighborhood. If anybody remembers, I forgot to bring with me the before and after photos, but if anybody remembers what that section of Kennedy Road looked like before we purchased the property, it was basically just a big scrubby field, and we feel like we've converted it into something that's very nice to look at when you drive down through there. And we would plan to do the same with this currently open farm field. For the purposes of the facility that we want to develop, which she's had a vision for a number of years of having kind of the place here in Western New York for people to come for canine, equine, even feline rehabilitation, and we're well on our way to that with what we've currently put together at 1748 Kennedy. I've reviewed the project with our neighbors. In fact, just today met with our newest neighbor, Ace Rillier, I believe is his last name, just purchased Jim Wilbert's property and is going to be building next year. And he didn't have any concerns or issues, was supportive of the project, just wants to make sure we don't have a lot of barking dogs out there. And we currently have plenty of healthy dog as well as therapy dog boarding. We don't have any noise issues. When the dogs are out, they're monitored by staff. Because we're out there actively playing with them. It's a part of our boarding philosophy is that we want the dogs to be active. We want them to be tired. Any dog that boards with us is going to get 15 to 30 minutes twice a day of active playtime so that they can get their energy out. And they're not sitting there yapping away like, I want to play, I want to play. We get them out, we keep them busy. There also will be, with the new facility, there'll be an indoor area where we can have dogs for running around, playing around time, especially in some of the inclement weather we tend to get around here. The property is pretty well buffered. To the north, it's all wetlands and forest. To the east is our property. To the north is Monroe County, former Gloria Road landfill. Nothing there. To the west, there's this property, which is currently a rental property, and the new building, which Ace was going to be putting together, is going to be roughly over in this area. Further over?
Yeah.
A little further over.
He purchased the back portion
Yes.
of the Samuels property after he purchased the property from Wilbert.
Right. Yeah,
So
we talked about that today.
Yeah.
He's building back into that great oak tree. We've always thought that's the perfect place to put a house.
Yes, he has a big vision back there.
Yeah, no, he discussed that with me today, and it sounds like, it's funny, the place he wants to build sounds like exactly what we want our place to look like. Barnwood type siding and nice high cathedral, great area.
It's unique.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it go up. But basically, again, no significant exterior lighting other than what's required by code for parking areas. We would plan to have a sign up front here similar to what we currently have, just with enough lighting for that sign so people can find us in the snowstorms. About the same proposed hours of operation as we are currently operating, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5 Friday, 8 to 4 Saturday, possibly Sunday. I mean, we'll definitely have boarding staff there Sunday. Even now, some of our most busiest times in order to get clients in for the therapy that they want, we even have to run a few Sunday appointments just to try to keep up. Hopefully we would be able to get rid of the Sundays by having enough facility and enough open appointments to be able to accommodate everybody Monday through Saturday. But effectively the same operation that we're doing now. The only significant changes would be having the indoor arena here and the pool. So this would be a canine pool. This would be for our dogs for therapy, but also for clients that would want to come and free swim their dogs, exercise their dogs, especially in the wintertime. It's hard to find times and places with the drifts that we're having to get your dogs out and get them active without causing additional injuries. So having a pool for people to come, we think could be an asset to the community, as well as another source of revenue for the business. This is our physical therapy exercise area, similar to what we have now, where we have underwater treadmills, hydrotherapy area, whirlpool, ultrasound laser, shockwave therapy, exam rooms, nice entrance lobby, front desk. The boarding suites would be back here for the dogs. We call them suites. They're not kennels. People board their dogs in kennels when they're sick and they go to the vet. But we board our dogs in suites. So these are like small rooms. And we would like to have exterior openings here where we could have dogs be able to go in and out on our control basis, not just free in and out access, but a way for us to just be able to open a door so they can go out, do their business, and come back in. Because we currently get dogs out 6 times a day, 2 play times after breakfast and dinner, first thing in the morning, and last thing at night, about 10 or 11 o'clock. We take them out, just walk each one out individually so they can take care of things before the nighttime arrives, before they got to sleep for a few hours. But effectively the same business that we do now. Questions?
Yeah, very thorough. Nice job. Couple of questions. I was looking through your application, and you talked about there's about 19 parking spots, I think, but you said you could possibly have up to 40 staff at some point. How would you address the additional parking? I know it's something you've talked with the planning board possibly, or maybe it was a typo. I'm not sure, but
it may have been a typo. Yeah, I didn't actually intend to put in.
It said it could be up to 40 staff, part-time, full-time. I don't know if that just means shift work in terms of you might only have 5 people at a time out of your 40, or if that's more what that was.
We currently, I mean, we would anticipate a maximum of about 40 full and part-time people, but as far as people there at any given time, yeah, it probably wouldn't be more than 12, maybe 15, something like that.
Okay.
But probably 12. I think we'd probably need a little bit more than 19 parking spots. If I put that in there, that was a typo.
That's now, the water area outside, is that something that's more drainage? Will that be treated? Will it be full of mosquitoes at some point if it just sits there?
This is something we were just discussing. Our architect actually discussed this with us. We probably wouldn't, I mean, ideally from a economy standpoint, it would be nice to combine this with our retention pond. But for her purposes of having a clean area for dogs to play, I don't think that's going to work. So I think we would end up with a detention pond back in this area. This we envision more of, as the Beverly Hillbillies would say, a concrete cement pond.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
There's one up the street.
There's one up the street?
On the Wilbur's property.
Oh, right, right. That's right. I haven't seen it, but I've heard about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so something like that where it would be shallow in one end, getting a little deeper so that dogs could swim. But that would be, yeah, that would be treated water that we would keep in there.
Your application also talked about events. Talk about the events in terms of, was that, you know, dog class? I mean, like, I know you have an indoor arena. Is that like dog classes, obedience classes, where you have multiple people showing up at once, then leaving, or?
On a small scale.
Okay.
We wouldn't have large events where you're going to have a lot of attendee spectators.
Okay.
You know, it's not like we're going to be dock diving or something. We're going to have 1,000 people come to an event. Right. We would intend to have some in the indoor arena. We would have that available to be rented out for people to come and give, obedience classes, agility classes, that sort of thing, where they might have, I don't know, what, 6 or 10, 15 people. There's a second floor, which I didn't put up here, but there's a conference room that would be up here that would overlook this, so we could have, you know, small lectures or something along those lines where people would come and rent that space and be able to meet upstairs and then go down below and use the arena area.
Okay. When people bring their horses to you, or do you pick them up? I'm not sure which way. Would they leave their trailers there? I mean, sometimes, would that be long-term, short-term? If if you have, let's say, 4 horses there, and would all that additional gear be left there with them, or?
No. Right now we go to farms and do chiropractic and acupuncture. It's not up here, the 4-horse stall that we would, 4-horse barn that we would plan to put in there would be for what's called layup boarding. So this would be somebody that has a horse that needs therapy or needs to recover. They would come and drop off the horse and then leave.
Okay.
So there wouldn't be any, we wouldn't see any trailer parking there would be no need for them to leave a trailer there.
Okay. I think the only other question I have in terms of your neighbors to the west, they don't, in terms of buffering, I know when you start getting farther back to the property line, is there any concerns from that you've heard in terms of eyesight? I mean, we don't really know what it's going to look like per se when it's there, but has any concern been raised from planning board maybe even?
Not yet.
Okay.
We're in for our sketch plan is at the planning board for the next session coming up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I have.
What about the manure for the horses that are boarded there?
So currently, so the manure would be for any boarding horses. The manure would be cleaned from the stalls once or twice daily. It's what we do at our current places, and that is either spread in some of the fields. The rest of the property, we have a total of 50 acres there. There's plenty of open fields there, so we either spread that or it gets piled up and worked in to some of the farmland there. Sometimes it gets hauled off to farmers will come and take it if we accumulate a pile. If there were any storage of manure, it would be well away from any property lines. I understand that.
Any other questions from the board? Anyone in the audience care to speak about this? Come on up.
I'm Dave Rupert, 1530 Harris Road. The Browns have run a real nice operation there. There's been no issues with neighbors. The road's not a well-traveled road, so there's no real issue with traffic. And again, like with drainage, it pretty much stays primarily on their own property, you know, and I currently work the field there. So, you know, with the application, I would hope that the board here would look favorably for it. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Anyone else from the audience? Wow. It's quite an ambitious plan, but good for you that the business has grown like that.
The business is there for it. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Congratulations.
Okay, well, thank you. Next application, please.
Application number 5, Elizabeth Vella, 95 Video Street, Rochester, New York, 14609, requests an expansion to a pre-existing non-conforming use under Article 4-4-15 of the Code to allow a property maintenance business at 44, 50, and 56 Wilbur Track Road. The property is owned by Elizabeth Vella and is zoned R-1-20. This is SBL numbers 108.10-1-1.113, 108.10-1-1.2, 108.10-1-1.112. This is application number 15Z-0012.
Hello, my name is Joseph Renato. I'm broker for Elizabeth Vella, the owner of the property. She's owned the property now for approximately how many? 8 years, and it was in her family for 15 years prior. The property's been used since late 1970s as trucking storage, construction companies, and various other businesses. Tile company most recently up until October of last year. Recently that tenant moved out. We've located a new tenant called Blackwood Management. It's a property management company for lawn maintenance, landscaping, and they're currently operating in the town of Mendon. They're looking to expand their facility. Her property contains about 5,000 square feet of warehouse storage space plus offices. They're not going to expand the warehouse. They're not going to expand the paved land. Basically keep the property as is and use it as it's been used since the late 1970s. There's 2 to 3 full-time employees, the owner and 2 other people that would be year-round on the property. And mainly it's seasonal property from spring to summer, where there'd be 15 to 20 employees. Not all of them operate at the facility, so not all of them will be going back and forth on the facility. And we're not changing anything about the property, just putting a new tenant in an existing building.
Okay, what do you think they're going to store there?
Things for landscaping, seeds, shrubs, lawnmowers, their equipment for lawn maintenance. To the north is Agway, which borders this property. I mean, it will continue to look like it's one part of that, basically, as it does now.
Okay. And any issues with the prior uses before, any complaints that you've heard about that?
There's
Pretty quiet back there.
Yeah, I mean, there's no other neighbors than the Agway because you have the wetland basically all around.
All
and then-
around,
all around it,
absolutely.
and then there's the road, and there's no one even to be seen from the
And obviously,
property.
we're all aware of the expansion across the street.
Yes.
Do you anticipate any issues with this business and traffic, any dangers there? Or
No, I mean, we're talking 3 to 4 employees year-round, and then the most at a time will be 10, and there's plenty of parking for
Right.
those
And
employees.
the state, I
And
know.
we're gated.
Okay, you're right.
We're
Yep.
gated a lot.
So it's going to be more controlled entry and exit.
Exactly.
All right, very good. Any other questions from the board? Anyone in the audience? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Application number 6. Blake Miller, Upscates Nursery and Landscape Design Center, 2343 Penfield Road, Penfield, New York, 14526. Requests a special permit for signage under Article 7-7-3 from Article 7-7-12-B and Article 7-7-12-E of the Code to allow a larger freestanding sign with less setback at 2324 Penfield Road. The property is owned by Blake Miller and is zone RR-1. This is SBL number 140.01-1-64.1. This is application number 15Z-0013. Good.
Okay, so what I'm looking to do is to put up a sign that's going to be a recognition of our new business that we're starting, which will be a landscape nursery and a landscape design center, where we're also going to be doing some retail sales of power equipment, outdoor furniture, and some other items to enjoy the outdoors. The property itself is very geographically challenging because of the narrowness of the property and the fact that there are DEC wetlands on the site. Not to mention, it's also on a very hard curve. So we're asking for a variance for a setback that will be not as far, so we're actually asking to go closer to the road, which will be outside of the New York State DOT right-of-way. In addition to that, we're also asking that we move the sign closer to the street for safety and for recognition. If we pull it off the road, we're going to be getting into a wetland issue. We're also going to be getting into an area where it won't be visible. So we'll have passerby traffic. They'll have to either turn around, slam on their brakes, things of that nature that we are worried about. For these same reasons, we're asking for a slightly larger sign. I believe the town code allows for a 20 face foot. We're asking for a 24 face foot. So 8 by 3, it also justifies with the logo of what we want to have there. I've built a few signs up and down Penfield Road already, so it would be of similar construction of doing stone facing with some sort of a outdoor proof sign. It will be lit up, I would say, until 10 o'clock. We are in kind of a residential setting, I would say, so I think anything past 10 would be too late, so we'd put that on timer. Typical landscape lightings like we've done at 1739 and 2343 Penfield Road, or excuse me, 2140 Penfield Road, where we'd put those lights on a timer and just do some floods. We would have landscape plants around the sign throughout the season, but we do a special type of pot-and-pot systems, so we can actually swap the plants out, so it will always be in bloom. That will go hand in hand with the business, and just kind of show our capabilities of what we can do. So try to add a little attraction and aesthetics to the environment around there. This sign is also in conjunction with the site plan that we did have prepared by Marathon Engineers. The location of the sign does allow for it's a state code of a WV50 truck turning radius, so we can get semis in and out of there. I believe that 54 foot in length of the trailer itself, plus the cabin as they come in there. All of this would be constructed outside of the wetlands and the buffer zone, so we wouldn't have any environmental impacts that we'd have to worry about.
Okay. Did you say that you don't need any approval from DOT, state?
No, because we're going outside of the right-of-way.
Okay.
We're making sure of that.
All right. And what sort of analysis did your engineer do, or did you do, to support your proposition that the sign needed to go on that spot for safety reasons. I think, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I thought that's what you said.
You're not putting words in my mouth. We had to get a road cut permit from the DOT.
Okay.
And so the sign location was in conjunction with the road cut permit that was filed with the DOT.
Okay, so that, meaning what? What does that mean?
I worked with Jim Fletcher at the engineer's office.
At the town?
Yes.
Okay.
Penfield.
And one of the factors that went into your working with Jim was where the sign should go for safety reasons.
Correct.
Site distance. And
safety, transportation, getting goods in and out, getting safe traffic practices,
Okay.
all of those. Site distance was a big issue that we had because of the turning radius and the corner that this is located on. So it's a narrow lot to begin with, and we obviously can't construct the sign in the wetlands.
Right. It's hard for me to see, but do you have, is that the depiction of the sign up there?
Yeah.
Okay, could you describe that a little bit for us?
Yeah, of course. You know, we were going to do a stack stone sign. It's roughly going to be about 16 feet wide by 7 feet tall to fit the sign on the inside of this. And then it was going to be in a V shape, so it would actually flare out towards the road for easier viewability. And then we were going to put plants and lights, you know, mixed in here to make it aesthetically pleasing.
Okay. So Harold, the stone on the outside, is that considered part of the sign or not?
No, just the
So just 8 by 3?
Yeah.
Okay, and if you were to go 8 by 2.5, does that, I wish we had the math lady here. 8 by 2.5 brings it into compliance, doesn't it? Or pretty close? Thank you for chuckling back there, whoever did that.
Did somebody do the calculation already for us?
It's 20, which is, yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Just needed
So
something.
could you live with that?
Yeah, of course we could. It's not a deal breaker.
Yeah. All right. So you're saying you wouldn't need the variance for the size?
Yeah, there's also, in looking at the topo of this property, there is a hill, so that's why we need the sign a little elevated off the ground. That's why it's a larger structure.
Okay.
You will not be able to see the sign if we don't get it off the ground to the schematics of what we did. So we've run some different scenarios.
Okay. All right, anybody else from the board have questions?
Yeah, on this paper that you sent us, it says Upscapes. You're not going to use Blake Miller as your sign? It's just going to say
This is a
Upscapes?
separate company, ma'am. So another business that we're creating.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Anything else from the board? Anyone in the audience care to speak about this? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Application number 7, Sung Kim's, 52 Seton Court, Penfield, New York, 14526. Requests a conditional use permit under Article 10-10-4 and Article 3-3-77-K of the Code to allow the expansion to an existing martial arts school at 1601 Penfield Road. The property is owned by Penfield TK Owner LLC and is Zone GB. This is SBL number 138.08-1.2./PLZA. This is application number 15Z-0014.
And I just want to thank Harold for getting me on the list so we can stay here extra late. 22 years ago, I opened up a Taekwondo school in 749 Panorama Trail, where the I think the current Rochester Fitness Equipment store is. About 15 years ago, I moved it into the Tops Panorama Plaza, where I currently exist, and I'm looking for more space. So it actually worked out well because just this past year, our lease expired December 31st, so we thought it would be a good opportunity to gain more space for a growing business. The space next to Party City, which was formerly Fashion Bug, opened up. It's 6850 in terms of square footage, and I feel it's a great opportunity for us to kind of grow our business in this wonderful town of Penfield. We're pretty much in the plaza. We'll be staying in the plaza, so I think everything will pretty much stay the same. Everything is the same. Any questions?
Yeah, just a little housekeeping. We asked for a change of use permit. Actually, you need a conditional use permit.
No, it was for
And
the
this-
conditional use permit. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, well, your letter says change of use. But don't worry about it. The
Yes.
staff took care of it, and it's been advertised as conditional use.
Thank you,
So
ma'am.
that's what we're going to be deciding, a conditional use.
Yes, ma'am.
As you said, you've been in the plaza for a number of years. Any complaints?
No, ma'am.
Okay. We don't have to
Complaints
address...
from me or other people? I can give you some complaints to the landlord,
Yeah.
but that's another
Did
story.
you have complaints?
Well, the plaza was recently purchased, just I think probably a couple of months ago, and I think the new ownership, they have some big plans to renovate and do good things with the plaza. So, and so far the communication has been better, so I'm pleased with the new landlord after the short period of time, but I'm sure that could change as time goes on.
How much larger is your space?
It would be about 3,000 square feet larger.
Wow.
Larger? Wow.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I noticed you're doing quite a bit of renovations over there, painting or something?
There's just some, we're allowed to do some light, we're doing some demo at this time, but no building yet.
Okay. And will you be having additional employees?
No, ma'am. Well, hopefully the business grows and we can have more employees, but pretty much I think it is to make it a more comfortable place for my current clients. Right now we've kind of outgrown it and things are a little tight, so I think with more space it would make a more pleasant experience for my current customers.
And how many employees do you have now?
I have 7 employees.
7? Okay. And are you open every day?
Except for Sunday.
Except for Sunday?
At times we may come in for some staff meetings or some special training on Sundays, but primarily Monday through Saturdays.
And your hours of operation will be the same?
I would say about 11 to 9 each day. It could vary depending on activities or meetings that are going on. Saturdays, 9 till 5 is common.
Okay. Do you generally work with individuals or do you have groups or how does that work?
Individuals. At times there would be special groups, like last week there was a Girl Scout troop that came in for a class, so we do accommodate some groups.
Do you sell anything there?
Do we sell anything?
Like clothing that you use or?
Maybe protective equipment, maybe some cool T-shirts, things like that.
Any beverages?
No, ma'am. We do have an after-school program where the children are allowed to purchase drinks.
So you sell drinks there?
I guess it would be considered, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and any other food?
There's snacks. They're all packaged snacks that, you know, they're not opened or, you know, processed by us. No hot foods, nothing like that. But just packaged snacks that after-school kids have the option to purchase.
And are you going to use the exact same sign you had down at the other end?
Yes, ma'am. The Taekwondo letters will be exactly the same. We are planning on changing the front logo to our new logo. So.
Oh, you have a new logo?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I take it the sign will be the same size as the other one?
Yes, ma'am. That's what we're planning on. Currently, obviously, the Taekwondo will be the same. My current sign, I think it's 3 feet tall. We're making it 3 feet round, so it will be the same.
Okay. And how much of the sign will the logo take up?
How much of the sign will the logo take up? It's going to be very similar to our current sign. I would say it's 3 by 3, and so it's going to take up maybe a quarter of the sign.
A quarter of the sign?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Very good.
Anything else from the board? Anyone in the audience? Okay, thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
All right, that was the last application, so we'll adjourn the public hearings, take a brief recess, and reconvene in the back. Thank you. Number 1.
All right, I make a motion that this is an unlisted action.
Second. And no significant impacts?
No significant impact.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Aye.
Okay, with regard to the front sign, I'm going to move to approve that as the freestanding sign in the front. It's a very busy intersection, obviously, and I think the extra signage is worthwhile in that location. So for that reason, I would move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, so all the variances that need to go with that.
Right.
I do have okay, so that was going to be my question, because he obviously has to make an application to state DOT without any assurances that he's going to be given a permit to place it in the right-of-way.
Right.
If he doesn't get that permit, will we allow him to place it right on the right-of-way at zero setback? And that's what you just said.
It'd be farther back then.
It would be further back, right, but
Sure.
without having to come back to the board.
It makes sense.
That's not what I was thinking, because that's much more in depth than what I was thinking. But that's a good thought. And I'm okay with it if you,
Sure,
your
I mean,
motion.
it would be set back even further, so, I mean, with less impact, and less of a variance, so. So obviously it'll be subject to that approval, which you would need to get anyways.
Yes.
Whether we do that or not.
Right.
With regard to the second sign, again, I don't think an informational sign is authorized based on the fact that there's no current access road there. So I think we have to deal with a second freestanding sign. And again, this is a small lot. He needed variances to put a fairly good-sized building, so there's a lot going on there. And the question is, once you get onto Harris Whalen Road, the only real purpose of a sign should be to notify a person where the entrance to that road and parking lot is. And I think that can be accomplished with a directional sign as opposed to an entirely new freestanding sign. Anything else is basically advertising, and I think we've turned down other applicants, you know, based on similar requests when they're just for advertising. So for that reason, I would move not to approve this.
And I'm going to second that, and because I really don't think we should be anticipating what might go in there. We don't know what's going to go in there or how many years it's going to take, and I actually think that I think we've been told, even if the code is going to be changed tomorrow, we're not supposed to be anticipating that. We're supposed to do with just what's there now. So I think we should just deal with what's going to be there right now.
I mean, there's just too many issues with the sign and then removal of the sign. I just don't think.
Well, as the representative stated, they could come back.
Right.
And as I said, I appreciate the candor about the desire, starting a new business, you want to get out there, but there are other methods of marketing.
Yeah, and I think your point was well taken too. Yeah. Mostly referrals for an orthodontist. People aren't going to go, hey, you know what, you need to have my teeth fixed.
Yeah.
And the sign off Harris isn't really a marketing sign because it's a little bit back. It's not like you're catching the traffic going by. I think that sign in front really accomplishes that from the marketing purpose.
Yeah.
Okay, so you
Motion
had
to deny, basically.
I don't think we voted on your first one.
No,
we didn't.
So you want to do them separately?
It doesn't matter.
We probably should, because
Yeah,
they are
we should.
different standards.
Okay, so with the first one, we have we'll call it the front sign.
Yep.
We have a motion to approve all the required variances for that, and we had a second.
Yes.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And then the second, well, go ahead, Mike.
Back sign. I move to deny that application.
Okay, in all respects.
In all respects.
Okay, any further discussion on that? Okay, we have a motion to deny and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Is that it?
Yep.
That one, yeah.
All right.
Number
3.
Okay. It's mine as well. Also, I believe this is an unlisted action, and I so move with negative deck.
Second. Further discussion on the seeker? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, I'm going to move to approve this. I don't think the impacts are significant. I mean, the woman made a couple of points, but it sounds like this is the only place that they can realistically put it. I think if we require the further buffering, which they've already agreed to as a condition, I think that would go a long way towards mitigating some of the impacts to the neighbors. It sounds like the lighting situation will improve. You don't have lights mounted on the building that are shining directly towards the house. The headlights, I don't know what else you can do. Basically, I don't think you can back it and make them go away that way. I just don't see the impact that this would cause.
Yeah, I agree with that. Couple of comments I have. I do think that we should consider trying to do something with that garbage pickup, but apparently that's common from what you guys said. 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning.
Commercial, oftentimes, that's why, you know, the Walmarts and things, you hear them emptying dumpsters oftentimes. I mean, they might be able to work out with their trash carrier that possibly they're a hauler that they can move things, but commercial usually works before businesses open, so they're out of the way.
Right.
Before the parking lots fill up.
Yeah.
You really have a minimal amount of control.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, we have pushed requirements onto these new developments that they can't have these commercial refuse haulers show up before 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock in some cases.
Do you know if you have any flexibility there?
I don't know, but we'll look into it.
Okay.
Harold, do you want to maybe send a note to the planning department to make
Planning,
sure that this issue is addressed in the property maintenance agreement if it's part of that process, which I assume that they're going to require a property maintenance agreement as part of their approval.
I would, yeah.
Okay, that, and the other point was trying to get the employees to not hang out, and assuming it's happening. I mean, she says it is, so talking, smoking, you gotta go somewhere to have your cigarette break, I understand that, but if we could keep that, somehow minimize that, I think that would go a long way, especially if there's kids listening to conversations. We don't want that to happen. Other than that, I think it's a good application. It was well done. Thorough.
I think the buffering we've got to address.
Mm-hmm.
Those trees that are in the back, the evergreens that the woman said, the bottoms are all dead.
Absolutely.
That be redone, something else put along that line.
Correct.
I think they're going
If you want, we could show you the landscape plan. We are proposing a whole row of new evergreens that are being planted at, and their height will be 5.5 feet.
And planning board will approve that plan. The only thing that I would add to that is that should be constant. For instance, let's say whatever you put in there dies 5 years from now.
And just so you know, a little more background, the landscape consultant for the planning board is looking at the landscaping plans to make sure that the species that our landscape architect is proposing are good for longevity, and to make sure, because there was discussion of them being bigger, but then someone else on the board suggested, well, sometimes when you plant a bigger plant, it doesn't take well and they die off. So they were going to have a landscape architect, the town's landscape architect, look at the plans and make recommendations. Pretty confident what we have is good, but we can always tweak it. We're always open for tweaking.
Okay, so I guess what I would suggest is an approval with a memo to planning board, right back at them, that says we would like you to consider the employee conduct, the buffering well maintained, and what else? What were we talking about? Oh, the dumpster. Look at that issue as well. Okay, so we have a motion to approve.
Yes.
And we're okay with that condition. Further discussion?
I'll second
Did we take care of secret on this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
You
so.
seconded that. Did you second his motion to
Sure.
approve?
Sure. If not, I did.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Number 7.
Okay, I move that this is an unlisted action and with no significant impact.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The merits?
Okay, this essentially is the same as before. It's the same plaza. So all of the, what?
Only bigger.
Only bigger, yeah. Same thing. He's had no complaints. He's been there for several years in the same plaza. The signage is going to be essentially the same, a new sign, but the same size as the sign is. Noise level, there's no problem. Site distance again, and proposed buffering, again, it's a plaza. There are no odors. Exterior lighting's going to be the same, again, because the plaza. His hours of operation are 11 to 9. It's not listed under Article 3-3-77-K, but it is similar and it is compatible with the general business district. So that shouldn't be a problem. It meets all the 10-4 requirements. He's not detrimental in any way. So I move that we grant the conditional use permit.
Second it.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Good luck.
Thank you, Board.
Let's go to number 2.
Worth waiting.
Yes, definitely.
Good night. Let's see. This is an unlisted action, negative declaration for under seeker for unlisted.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permits. Basically, everything's staying, the plaza's not changing, there's nothing changing there. Parking, her business is actually getting smaller from size-wise, so she'll be using less parking than she currently is. There's plenty of parking. Everything sounds fine there, so I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, I got number 4 next.
Let's see, that's me again. Make a motion to a negative deck for unlisted action.
Second.
Further discussion on seeker? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I will make a motion to approve the conditional use permit.
I'll second.
And it's good for them.
It's amazing.
But it is big, and I was trying to think, are there, but I couldn't think of one. Any conditions?
Yeah.
I really couldn't. They seem to.
They covered everything.
Going
They've talked to the
fine,
neighbors and
no issues. It's
They've got
it's
50
rural. It's
acres.
staying rural. Plenty of land.
You heard him mention he'd spoken with Ace earlier today. I encouraged Ace to call him and discuss with him, because Ace's house is going to be back further than this proposed building, and he's going to be, now from the distance he's probably close to 800 to 900 feet away, but he still is putting a big investment in a home back there, and he doesn't necessarily want to just look straight on to the docks.
All those windows on the front, the whole front is all windows.
Yeah,
It sounds like
it's unique.
Facing their
Yeah.
property, the windows? Or?
It's like the front.
It's just a lot of glass up there. There's a lot of glass. There's a yoga room up on the 2nd floor that looks sort of directly out in that
They have a
direction.
lap pool
And they have a
inside.
lap pool inside. They have 2
Wow.
hot tubs. And
Wow.
just
It's got a name.
The house?
It has a name.
the butterfly house.
The
Butterfly?
butterfly. Oh.
Why is
The
that?
glass on the front
Oh,
sort of
the
goes
glass.
like
Like
this.
wings?
Like an atrium.
Yeah,
You
so
can
I'm
just-
thinking that's what it is.
Huh.
Yeah, it's,
It's very modern.
It's unique. It's very modern.
So your concern is he may not know what he's going to be looking at?
No,
He was concerned with that.
I think Ace has an understanding.
Okay.
I had a good conversation with him yesterday, and like I said, I encouraged him to talk to Dana, and it sounds like they did. Ace said if he had any problems, he would show up for the meeting and
He did?
express it, and he did.
So we're okay with buffer, which was the only real big thing that I thought about after the water that they were gonna have outside, but it's treated now, so that seems, it's basically an outdoor pool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, good for them.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Number 5, I'm going to make a motion to, well, let's see, what is it, unlisted? Is that what you're recommending?
Yes.
So I'd make a motion that's unlisted action with no significant impacts, therefore neg deck.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
And on the merits, I would make a motion to approve. It's been used like this for years. I know it's a pre-existing non-conforming use, but you know, we're stepping up the property. Just seriously, what else could it be used for at this point? So I don't know if that's a justification, but it is in my mind.
Keeps it occupied.
Right, exactly. Because it could fall into disarray if not, and that certainly would be out of conformity. So, all right, we have a motion to approve and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And let's see, number 6, I believe he's agreed to reduce the size, if I heard right. Yep. So we can consider that request withdrawn. So I would make, well, okay, again, unlisted action.
Yes.
And no significant impact, so a neg deck.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and I'd make a motion to approve the location based upon the work that he did with the state and the town to determine the most safe location.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we have one table, the same one? How else are we looking for March?
We had 3 or 4, and
Yeah,
then
one of them is gonna be pushed back. We have, the Shaw's place, they have a garage addition they're proposing.
remember Lalit and Mira Shaw on Penfield Road? They're coming in for a garage addition to
Old house?
to the old house. That's going to be going towards Penfield Road, so it's going to be, well, it's 30, 35 feet from the right of way, I think it is. Lalit has been experiencing some mobility impairments and he's having a difficult time walking.
Closer to the driveway then? It's a circular driveway.
Well, that circular component of the driveway is going to go away, but when you come in from the east and bend around, that's where the garage is going to go, and the garage will have direct access into his office, so he doesn't have to manage his parking lot and his office environment.
Okay, anything exciting or just routine stuff from what you've seen so far?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was like a
Wow.
residential one, so, yeah, and that was probably the only,
And we're not past our submission deadline.
Right.
yeah, right.
So we still have some time, so.
Tomorrow.
I didn't see him.
Tomorrow's
Not
the deadline.
pissed
Right.
that
Tomorrow's the date, right?
his clients.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
technically.
And he's gonna have to answer.
But you'd be surprised, all of a sudden, you know, you get 5 applications and
Okay, well, very good, folks, well done. It was a action-packed agenda, but we got through it as always.
Yep.
So we'll adjourn.